Episode 698. On the Club Guild side, after settling Mo Chang's account, they urgently convened an online meeting to discuss the bounties on the other two. 5 burner accounts. Small money, but still money. It still had to go through the club's financial process, which meant a stain was already on the record. The guild leader had some financial authority, but they weren't the club's top decision maker. Every expense would show up in their annual performance review. It wasn't a huge expense, but it was infuriating, made them look completely incompetent. Outwardly, they put on a high-minded front, claiming they couldn't care less about such a trivial sum. But to pull that same act in front of the boss, internally, that would just be asking for ridicule. They'd already been burned once by those 5 Heavenly Swords nobodies. If they let Deception and Lord Grimm fleece them too, making the same mistake 2-3 times over, well, that'd be bad for their careers. Bounty missions like this have far too many loopholes. For both public and private reasons, it really isn't feasible to keep going with them. The discussion group had barely formed when several guild leaders declared their firm intention to withdraw. With some wanting to bail out and leave the rest to shoulder the burden, everyone else was even less willing to go along with it. So after just 10 minutes of discussion, they unanimously decided to call off the bounty hunt and to think twice before pulling any more brain-dead stunts like this in the future. A week after the bounty went out, the target hadn't shown so much as a shadow, while the 5 decoys had cost the clubs $150,000. This outcome left every club thoroughly displeased. More importantly, this bounty had sparked a wave of excitement, so why did it just fizzle out like that? They needed to explain themselves. They couldn't just let that $15,000 go to waste, nor could they simply enshrine the videos bought with it. So, as proof, the clubs would show the public just how successful their operations had been. In truth, every club gritted their teeth watching those 10 video files. The opening credits, those shaky, shoddy Shao Chang Productions characters, grew more irritating with each viewing. One by one, they ordered their tech teams to obliterate that intro entirely. The 5 extras were taken care of, but they still needed an explanation for those 2 500 bounty players. Unfortunately, they never managed to kill either of them, so in the end they issued a high-sounding statement. Thanks to the joint efforts of all the clubs, the 2 main culprits, Lord Grimm and Deception, had finally been forced to curb their recent skulking behavior. It was just a pity that their 5 underlings had been abandoned as sacrificial pawns, completely annihilated by us. Since everyone's busy, we've decided to leave it at that for now. But we make no promises that we won't launch such an operation again. Scavengers, watch yourselves. To be fair, for the vast majority of players who didn't know the inside story, they really did think the Club Guild's operation was a huge success. The video released was a curated selection from 10 recordings, so the average player had no idea how riddled with holes and over the top it actually was. This operation was launched under the banner of cleaning up the scavengers, though that was just a banner, nothing more. Who would have thought that a casual move would hit the mark so perfectly? After that, the scavenging trend in the heavenly domain actually calmed down quite a bit. The players were sharp enough to threaten the annoying scavengers with the actions of the major guilds. This brainless bounty campaign ended up being a small blessing for the players of Heavenly Domain, and the clubs even managed to scrape together a bit of praise. But those were results that would only become apparent after some time. So, after the guilds released that statement, who felt the most immediate impact? Of course that would be Yi Shu. Though he still had to stay vigilant, at least he no longer had to pack up and relocate at the mere sight of a shadow. No more jumping at every rustle in the grass. The leveling over the next 2 days went smoothly enough, and Lord Grimm steadily climbed to level 54. For someone with Ye Shu's playtime, that leveling speed was pretty slow for post 50. But what could he do? It's not like he had a dungeon to run. But in recent days, Yi Shu's busy schedule was no longer confined to the game itself. He began spending a great deal of time outside the game, digging through research materials. Why? Because the ready-made data he had on the Myriad Manifestations umbrella ended right there. For the 4 level thresholds, 55, 60, 65, and 70, Yi Shu would have to search the vast continent of glory himself for the right materials and equipment. And the total number of materials and items available at these levels was far greater than before, because starting from level 55, Glory introduced the Heavenly Domain, a new continent even larger than the original Glory continent, naturally bringing with it a wealth of new items. Naturally, the workload of sifting through all that to find the right upgrade materials grew even heavier. Yi Shu had gotten even busier during this time, and Chen Guo, after all, was an internet cafe owner. She couldn't just focus on the game and neglect the business. She still had to make her rounds through the internet cafe at set times each day. That morning, Chen Guo went for her usual stroll after getting up. She was standing outside the main door, breathing in the fresh air and twisting her waist, when she saw a figure crossing the street from the opposite side, heading straight for the happy internet cafe. Reaching the door, the man gave Chen Guo a slight smile. Chen Guo took one look at this guy. He had to be past 30, with that sharp, capable look about him. A guy like this doesn't look like someone who'd be hitting an internet cafe at the crack of dawn. He must have some urgent business that needs a computer, right? Chen Guo mulled it over, but still returned the other's polite smile. Who would have guessed that the next thing out of his mouth was,
"Is Yi Chu here?"
Huh?
Chen Guo was momentarily stunned, staring blankly at this person, then suddenly felt a flicker of familiarity. Was this some pro player? Chen Guo ran through the names in her head, but none came to mind.
"Is he in?"
Seeing Chen Guo spacing out, the other party asked again.
Oh, I'm here. Follow me.
Chen Guo nodded and led the visitor upstairs. The visitor was here for Yi Shu, and Chen Guo wasn't anything to him, so she didn't feel she had the right to pry. But when he got upstairs, the door was already open. Ye Shu was stepping out with a cigarette in his mouth, and he froze the moment he saw the person behind Chen Guo.
They're here for you.
Chen Guo stepped aside and made the introductions. Yi Shu's expression didn't change. He simply nodded, then stepped aside from the doorway, gesturing for the visitor to enter. The visitor nodded back, a broad smile on his face as he stepped inside. Chen Guo followed along, and with Ye Shu she never stood on ceremony. She immediately asked, her voice brimming with curiosity.
Who is this guy? Looks familiar. I feel like I should know him.
Ha! Excellent Era's boss.
Ye Shu chuckled and went inside. A sudden realization hit Chen Guo. That's right, this man was none other than the owner of Excellent Era, the real big boss, Tao Xuan. She had seen this man in news reports before, but as a boss, his exposure was naturally far less than the players, and he received far less attention. So although Chen Guo found him vaguely familiar, she couldn't place him at all. It was only when Ye Shu said it that it suddenly clicked. What's this? The boss of Excellent Era paying a personal visit. Chen Guo then realized there was far more to this than met the eye. Caught between concern and curiosity, she found herself following him into the room. Seeing them both turn to look at her, Chen Guo pointed at her own room.
I'll just head to my room.
Then she slipped over, entered the room, closed the door, and pressed herself back against it.
Sit.
In the living room, after offering Tao Xuan a seat, Ye Shu himself went to stand by the window.
"How have you been?"
Tao Xuan settled onto the sofa, his gaze fixed on Ye Shu.
Very well.
Ye Shu pulled a cigarette from his pocket, tapped one out, and tossed it to Tao Xuan. Tao Xuan was visibly taken aback, but by the time he reached out to catch it, it was already too late.